Steve Alcorn's a fine investigator. What he's doing with this Chris dude, I have no idea.
I gave her cigarettes for our anniversary one year.
There you go. That's fucking romantic.
She didn't like gifts. I said, well, I want to get you something. What do you want? Just give me a couple packs of cigarettes. So I wrapped them up and gave them to her.
Yeah, have some lung cancer.
You got a dead Bigfoot that's just been shot, hanging upside down in a tree. Though Meldrum was also careful to note, it's not a course about Bigfoot.
It's a course about Fozzie Bear. Who's Fozzie Bear? Some say his father was half grizzly. Nobody believed he was real. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a Muppet. To me, that was better than being president of the United States.
They upped my meds last night, so anything's possible. We're laughing at a story about dead people. I can't explain it, but it sure makes me feel like the spirits are happy.
I mean, I guess you could say it might have been somebody's hand moving real quick, but it's not a fucking ghost.
The jury's still out on that.
See, your hoaxes come at you with smiles. They come as your friends.
Pope Francis says doggy heaven is real, so your dog has a soul.
Ah, so now the dogs can hang out with the pedophiles.
Not Benedict, Francis, Pope Francis.
No, I'm just guilt by association, Steve.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's what they say when they talk about me and you.
Yeah, there you go. And yes, that sound was Steve coming back in on his new microphone that makes a fucking noise when he hits the goddamn button. Welcome to the Fortean Slip.
Next time. I'll mute in the hangout instead. I'm sorry. I didn't realize. You think this professional microphone that I have now would...
I knew when the minute you said that you were going to do that, I knew it was going to do that when you came back in.
Oh,
well. What fucking episode are we on? That is something I did not check before. Is it
remember
70?
Last episode was 16?
Yes.
I made a big to-do about that.
Episode 70. This is episode 70 of the Fortean Slip. The don't stick your big foot in your fucking mouth episode.
I'm not laughing at that, Chris.
No?
Can you guess what I'm laughing at?
No. Now I hear it. I couldn't hear it before because you were speaking. The dog is, of course, drinking water in the background. But yes, we thought today, seeing as how Steve got up off his dead ass and did a video today.
I did.
Which if you
I did.
If you haven't checked it out, you can check it out either on his YouTube channel. That is youtube.com/slick SLIK toys. Or you can check it out on the Fortean Slip blog, theforteanslip.blogspot.com. Ta-da. Anywho, Steve went over the Bob Garrett campsite rip-up Bigfoot attack. Men in Black. Were there Satanists involved, Steve?
There could have been. I don't know if that was claimed, though.
Chupacabra, Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, Jersey Devil. Did I miss anything, Steve?
I think reptilian. You forgot the reptilians.
And it was haunted.
Yes.
Steve went over this and gave his take on it, and I thought that maybe as a show, since we did the rundown there that we found about the Sasquatch Chronicles, that whole thing.
Right, and this is connected to that.
So I'm going to kind of throw it to you, Steve, because you looked over the information a little more than I did.
Well, and like I say in my YouTube video from earlier today, I kind of stayed out of this because I hadn't seen the videos. A lot of people had. So I wanted to take a look at the videos before I ever had an opinion on what really happened in this alleged torn-up campsite. So sometime in 2014, I guess Bob Garrett and Travis, I think his last name is Garrett too. I think they're both Garretts. They're out Bigfooting like they always do and come across a campsite and looked like something had happened there. Apparently, it was torn up some. And so, of course, what Bigfoot researchers tend to do is automatically jump to the conclusion that Bigfoot did it. And, of course, I looked at it today, and there's absolutely no evidence of that at all in my mind. I mean, you looked at what I had to say today, Chris, and I'm sure you came to the same conclusion.
Yeah, I find that your description of what you think went down was very apt.
Well, if you take a look at the video, and the full video is on Bigfoot I can't speak. Bigfootanarchy.blogspot.com, which I believe is Randy Filipovic's blog. Because part of the story is that the Men in Black came and took the video, made him take all his videos down. Some U.S. government agency shut him down and all this bullshit. And so the videos disappeared from the entire internet. You couldn't find them anywhere.
And then they rode away on the Loch Ness Monster.
Somehow Randy got a hold of them, and so I seen them the other day on Randy's blog, Bigfoot Anarchy, and figured, well, I'll take a look at it then and see. So what happens is Bob and Travis come into this campsite at night, and there's shit all over the place. I mean, strewn all over the place. And then they walk over the tent. Of course, they talk about maybe there's a dead body in there. Of course, there wasn't one, that kind of thing. And what really, I think, happened here is, because you can see in the video, whiskey bottle. Bob even says there's a whiskey bottle there. You can see beer cans and stuff like that.
Although one of the cans, I will take issue with you, because of one of the cans that you said looked like a beer bottle, a beer can. Yeah, it could have been a Red Bull can.
Yeah, I wasn't positive on that, but there is definitely a whiskey bottle in that video. And so what I think really happened here, and I can't come to any other conclusion, is that these guys, whoever was camping there, the campfire was within feet. And I mean, I said 5 feet in my video, probably even closer. I would say 2 to 3 feet, maybe, from the tent. Well, that spells disaster for anybody who knows anything about camping. And early in the video, you can see...
I built my fire, Steve, inside the tent.
I'll tell you a little story. When we were younger, I used to camp a lot. And we had those big, giant canvas tents, the old style that weighed about 50 pounds with the big, heavy-duty poles and everything. And we actually... stupidly, and I don't know one of the adults' ideas, took a kerosene heater in the wintertime and put them inside the fucking tents. Talk about ridiculously stupid. But that's what we did, and those things weren't fire resistant like the tents of today. And if you look at this video, you can see it's melted and not burned up. It's because that's what the tents are designed to do. They're designed to melt, not catch fire.
Right.
So in the beginning of the video, you can see clearly that the tent had caught fire. What other assessment are you going to have of something like that? They built the fire too close to the tent. They were drunk because there's a whiskey bottle, and even Bob says there's a whiskey bottle there, it's empty.
It's Bigfoot, Steve. It's always Bigfoot.
And there's barefoot tracks, but they're definitely human-sized tracks. And even Bob says in the video, it looks like they might have run out of the tent with their bare feet. So he's not even claiming that the tracks he found there were Bigfoot tracks. They're just barefoot tracks. So
no, those are Bigfoot tracks, Steve.
Well, maybe in retrospect. And that's why I only did the night, because they had gone back the next morning to, shoot some video of the campsite again. And the reason I only analyzed the night video is because that's their first thoughts. This is what they're thinking when they come upon the thing, not after they've had a night to sleep on it and come up with whatever theories they wanted to come up with. Although the first theory that they came up with was Bigfoot. I don't know how you jump from a burned up tent to Bigfoot, but that's what they did.
I always make that leap, Steve. I go
Yeah,
out.
well,
I go
and
out in
that,
my front yard. I see a pile of shit, and I say Bigfoot, Steve. I live in the woods. It's got to be
yeah,
Bigfoot.
I don't live in the woods, but it's still Bigfoot.
Broken tree in the backyard, Steve. Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
It's always Bigfoot.
Well, I think it's wishful thinking, to be honest. I don't
It's
know Bob
indicative
Garrett.
of what fucking goes on all the goddamn time.
Right.
People want
I
to
don't know.
sensationalize everything about what they do in the woods for either A, hits, or B, to just make it sensational.
I don't know Bob Garrett personally. I've never talked to the man. I do know people who have researched with him and have issues with some of those people, Lupe Mendoza, but I don't, like I said, I don't know Bob Garrett personally, and I don't know what kind of guy he is. I don't know if he's the type, just to go out there and make up evidence, or he really believes this is what's going on. There was a lot of deadfall in the area, and he had said in the video that he had been there a couple days before, and the deadfall wasn't there. But if you look at the video, you can tell it's all muddy, and there had been a storm that came through. So my guess would not immediately be, okay, Bigfoot knocked all these dead trees down. It's either one of two things. A storm knocked them down, or these drunk idiots knocked them down.
Thunderbird,
Because when
Steve.
you forgot Thunderbirds at the beginning.
Thunderbird.
They flapped their wings, and all the air made the trees fall
Thunderbird.
down.
See, what it is these people don't have the active imaginations that we do, because I'd take it to the extreme. Like, everything would have been there. John Teeter would have popped in.
It always goes back to John Teeter, doesn't it? Here's the thing. You could make up a story like that, Chris, and somebody's going to buy it. That's the problem, and that's the problem.
We're
with
doing
what
it all
happened
wrong, Steve.
here.
We need to just make shit up.
I'm not so good at that.
We need to be the Onion of Fortean news.
Oh, there's already there's a Bigfoot onion. I won't mention the name of the blog, but might as well be, right? So anyway, a whole year goes by after this video is shot, approximately a year, and then some guy named Ian Weston posts on Facebook that, I'll just read the quote. It says, "Bad news for the Bigfoot world today. Researcher friend and cryptid member Bob Garrett has been forced by a U.S. government agency to take a step back from sharing on any media any findings he has on Sasquatch. In the past, Bob put out some great vids, excellent radio show, and I, for one, think one of the best out there. A U.S. agency has shut down Bob's Facebook page, his YouTube account, and his radio site. Makes you wonder, really?"
Now, did they go so far as to actually say Men in Black?
No. Well, the original quote from this Ian Weston guy, and that's the only actual evidence that, besides the videos and the YouTube channel getting shut down and all that, that there's really no evidence that a government agency had anything to do with it. And I have been talking to some people about that particular angle of this thing, and because they believe that some people believe that Bob stumbled onto a crime scene, although in the video there's no evidence that any crime took place. And like I said in my video earlier today, unless in that particular part drinking is against the law, there was no crime. There's no evidence of a crime. There's no blood, no nothing like that.
So you mean Will Smith didn't show up with his little...
He may have, but there's no evidence of that. And the people that I've been talking to who have been investigating this behind the scenes have talked to Texas authorities, because this happened in that area in Texas. And if something like this had gone on, if there was, let's say, a crime scene there, they would know about it. And unless something really super weird or strange happened there, like maybe a drug thing or a Bigfoot attack and the government doesn't want us to know, then he didn't get shut down. And I don't know where that claim originated, except with this Ian Weston guy, who I don't personally know. In fact, that's the only time I've ever actually heard of him. So I don't. There's no evidence that Bob Garrett or anybody has ever been shut down as a Bigfoot researcher because they found a Bigfoot. There's no evidence out there that the government knows anything about Bigfoot, if it even exists. There's no evidence for any of that. So to jump from, okay, we found a torn up camp, to the government shut us down and won't let us go squatching anymore is a pretty big fucking jump in my opinion. Where that came from, I don't know.
Chupacabra, Steve.
Maybe that's what really happened, is the government's okay with Bigfoots and stuff, but maybe Bob and Travis and whoever else was involved came across a den of chupacabras, and
no,
we're not supposed to know.
No, I don't believe that for a second.
You don't?
No. Like I said, I think this is very indicative of what goes on in a lot of these incidents. People go out in the woods to research. They want to see Bigfoot. They're going out to see Bigfoot. So therefore, the evidence that they see is Bigfoot related.
All the time.
I've seen it happen with people. I've watched it happen. It's, to me, it's kind of funny. I mean, I go out in the woods. I walk through the woods. I don't have to see everything as Bigfoot.
I rarely do. I mean, there's some times that I've come across things that could be, if you believe. In this video that Bob had originally put up, there was this X shape with the trees. Now, I've seen that a ton of times in the woods, and it's most likely just a natural, wind or whatever. Another tree falling on a tree and causing these two trees to grow like that, whatever. But I've noticed lately that people are trying to bring this government conspiracy angle into Bigfoot research. We have it enough over in the UFO community. I mean, it's all over the place there, and it has been for years. But only recently have people been bringing it in as an angle. And I think it's a lot of the times, because I'm not sure that Bob Garrett ever said anything about the government shutting him down. I think that's coming from outside the Garrett camp, and not so far outside the Garrett camp, but like his people he's associating with. It's just a hunch. Like I said, I don't really know Bob. I've never talked to him, but I think the people he surrounds himself with.
I think there are a lot of people that got really defensive on that side about that whole situation, and that was really telling. No one is willing to ever, like, when anyone demands evidence, when any of us demand evidence, or when anyone wants to put things up to the test, the people that are out there making the outrageous claims always get defensive and never put up anything.
And that's the way it's always going to be. Because
and we talked about the whole Sasquatch Chronicles thing, and then all of a sudden it was, well, there were lights in the sky, and that was because I was contacted by some type of fucking engineer or something that said, that was a fucking a normal phenomenon. And, okay, all right.
So he had originally said that it was a full moon or something like that, and there was no full moon.
There was no full moon, and there's just people exaggerate claims. People make stories to make things look better than they are. Hey, I've told fucking stories about my past before and embellished the fucking shit out of them for fun. It is what it is. But I'm not going around and telling my sighting stories or any of that shit. Like, bullshit stories, like party stories, like getting fucking drunk and having your face painted type stories, shit like that.
Well, I think this whole torn up camp video is making the evidence fit the theory. And that's the whole thing that I can see there, because there's no evidence of anything other than if you already have a theory going in, you're going to make the evidence fit that theory. If you were out there ghost hunting, your first theory is going to be a poltergeist did this or whatever. You know, same thing.
Steve, I think that picture that Fred did for us of cryptids playing poker, that was the scene at the campsite.
Cryptids were playing poker, drinking whiskey. They got a little rowdy, decided to burn the tent down, and just Bob Garrett just happened to come
all
upon
the
that.
cryptids, all the cryptids that exist ever.
No, I just, like I said, I think it's making the evidence fit the theory. We've seen it a lot in both the UFO and the Bigfoot community and any other community. Chupacabras. I mean, you got naked raccoons running around, hairless raccoons running around, and that's a chupacabra because that's making the evidence fit your theory. And so I think, you know, if they were to go out there thinking that the Mothman did it, it would have been the Mothman. You know, it doesn't matter.
No, it was Indrid Cold.
What they're actually researching, whatever, you know. Or if it was a UFO researcher that came across that camp, they might say, well, we saw a light in the sky and now we found this torn up camp, so it had to be aliens, you know, that kind of thing. Well, it's just a torn up camp. How many of those have you seen in the woods when you're hiking? I mean, come on. I see them all the time. And I don't go out in the deep woods. It's just there. People do this stupid shit all the time.
I won't say that I've come across a torn up camp like all the time. I've come across
I have
some pretty strange shit in the woods before, but I never associated it with anything supernatural. I was just like, oh, there were people fucking off out in the woods.
Right. I came across one a couple summers ago, and it looked a lot like what the Garretts are showing here. And I never once and I was out researching. I was out Bigfoot researching at the time.
And you were in Pennsylvania, Steve. That fucking state is dangerous for cryptids. You see everything there. I said, your life is like a fucking episode of the X-Files. You're like fucking Fox Mulder with a cowboy hat.
We don't have chupacabras, though.
I think you do, Steve. I think you just don't know it yet. Like, you haven't gotten to that X-Files episode yet, Steve. You and Scully.
Anyway, my conclusion on this whole video is two drunk guys or more partying, got their tent on fire, and got the hell out of Dodge and left the camp. And then, of course, if it hits the internet, are they going to say, hey, yeah, that's our camp? Of course they're not. So you'll never know who did it. But that's all it was. There was no evidence of crime scene, no evidence of Bigfoot, and no evidence of the Jersey Devil.
Oh, damn. I was hoping.
Aliens, maybe.
I was hoping. I'm really hopeful, Steve. I want to believe.
Here's the thing. When I had first heard about this video, I'm thinking, oh my God, there's a crime scene. And I think I even made a comment in one of the groups, probably the coalition group or something, saying, well, they probably came across if the government had anything to say about it, they probably came across a crime scene. Well, now that I've seen the video, there's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of anything.
Yeah,
nefarious.
I don't see that video and see a crime scene. Like, I don't see any blood. I don't see any type of, you know, I don't see anything to indicate that anything went on. Like, if I stumbled upon that, I wouldn't say, oh, this is a crime scene. I would say, oh, this is a campsite
that some assholes left behind.
Yeah.
And that's all it was. End of story. And the thing that it caused so much controversy. You sure it wasn't
Bigfoot, Steve? I want to go Bigfoot. Let's go Bigfoot,
okay, go
Steve.
Bigfoot. All right.
Go Bigfoot or go home, Steve.
It caused so much controversy in the Bigfoot community. They're still talking about it. This happened a year ago.
Dude, it fucking... people were so defensive. People were threatening. It was insane.
Bob Garrett's a nice guy. Well, so what? I mean, we've heard that. How many times have we heard, well, this person wouldn't hoax. They're a nice guy.
I am taken back to a place called George's Farm.
Yep.
And a little fallen over tree.
I mean, that's what we were told. We were told in that instance, oh, this guy wouldn't hoax. He's such a nice guy.
He's a nice guy.
He might be a nice guy when he's sober. But, you know, that kind of thing. So, yeah. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along.
Yeah, pretty much. And I don't want to beat the shit out of it. I think pretty much everyone on the planet has beat the shit out of this fucking story.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to weigh in on it because you and I really hadn't said anything about it. And we had talked.
And then
I found
this is what caused the whole Sasquatch Chronicles debacle too. This is part of that. So
right, the whole that we had spoken about. I can't remember how long ago it was, like 2 weeks or so ago, that we had found the story about the whole Sasquatch Chronicles thing. And that whole story was very tongue-in-cheek. Like, you could tell by the tone of that they were poking wicked fun at the whole fucking thing. And it's just...
Which they should.
It's sensationalism. That's all of it was sensationalism.
And you know what it did in the long run? It's got those guys more listeners to their podcast. That's all it did.
Yeah, that's all it did.
That's probably what it was for, you know?
Yeah. And
there's a whole group on Facebook now defending that podcast.
Oh, of course there is. The hardcore believers, or
I'm in the group.
Believers.
Somebody added me. I didn't join it. But
someone added you to that fucking group. You should post this podcast in there.
I would get deleted. See, I get added to a lot of groups. We were going to do a show on superhuman powers. You know what my superhuman power is, Chris?
What's that?
That I can be as dumb as fuck, and people still trust my opinions.
No, you are dumb as fuck, Steve. And people trust your opinion.
People still ask me for my opinion. It's crazy. So that's my superpower. Anyway, so they added me to the group, and so I haven't said anything because I want to see what's going on in there.
I think you should post this show in there.
I would immediately be deleted.
I think you should.
Booted.
You got any news, Steve?
The ban hammer. Yes.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff? I don't want any shit tonight, Steve.
So I should do away with the stories that you picked?
Ha ha, motherfucker.
Okay, and our first story from the SyracuseNewTimes.com. It was early October 2014 in Mexico, New York. There's a Mexico, New York? I did not know. Thomas was getting ready to watch the 11 o'clock news before heading out to bed. Suddenly, the apartment he lives in began to shake with a rumbling sound. The sound was familiar to him. It was the sound of a military helicopter. He says, I walked out my back door. There was a very low-flying military Black Hawk helicopter chasing 3 low and glowing flying objects that made no sound. Thomas knew that as this Black Hawk had no other reason to be in the area and was apparently not searching or looking for anything or anyone, I don't know how he knew that, but he knew it, Chris.
He knew, Steve, like you knew that it was a Thunderbird.
That's right. No, I didn't say that. I said I heard it. And it might have been. The military craft flying low and was clearly chasing the unidentified flying objects. As the bright formation of UFOs continued on their course, it was obvious to Thomas that that the Black Hawk was having a hard time keeping up with them. He says the formation of UFOs banked from the northeast to the southeast in an irregular manner that made no sense to him. They were flying at perhaps 600. They were flying at perhaps 600 to 800 feet from the ground when suddenly all the objects in front of the Black Hawk were they were gone. Thomas tells us that both him and his wife lost sleep over the sighting incident. It took me some time of thinking before
listening to the fucking incident.
It took me some time of took me some time of thinking before I reported this sighting. I have no doubt that there is life from other worlds that have been and are still visiting Earth. I am from a Native American tribe which has lived in New York for 7,000 years. For years I have listened to stories from many tribes in our state which tell about visits of other beings from other worlds. Thomas says he'd never seen a craft or anything that he could call a UFO until that night in October 2014.
Good for him.
Way to pick a current story, Chris. It's from October of 2014.
Hey,
it's still, good stuff.
Hey.
Maybe it just came out.
Hey.
He did say he waited. Yes?
read the fucking news.
All right, from Mike.com, MIC.com. This stuff's cool here. A team of biohackers has figured out how to inject your eyeballs with night vision. Sweet.
I want me some night vision. Sign me up.
In People Becoming Superhuman News, a small independent research group has figured out how to give humans night vision, allowing them to see over 50 meters in the dark for a short time. Science for the Masses, a group of biohackers based a couple of hours north of Los Angeles in Tehachapi, is that how you say it? Tehachapi, California?
I don't fucking know.
Theorized, yeah, me either. They could enhance healthy eyesight enough that would induce night vision. To do this, the group used a kind of chlorophyll analog called chlorin E6 or CE6, which is found in some deep sea fish and is used as an occasional method to treat night blindness. Going off that research, we thought this would be something to move ahead with, the lab's medical officer Jeffrey Tibbetts told Mike. There are a fair amount of papers talking about having it injected in models like rats, and it's been used intravenously since the 60s as a treatment for different cancers. After doing the research, you have to take the next step. To do so, the team biochem researcher Gabriel Lucena became a guinea pig. How it happened.
Fucking right.
What's basic. Hey, I think I'd do it. Fish eyeball stuff into my eyes? Sure, why not? With what's basically a really fine turkey baster, Tibbetts slowly dripped 50 microliters of CE6 and its extremely low dose into Lucena's speculum-stretched eyes, aiming for the conjunctival sac. I'm sure I said that correctly, which carried the chemical to the retina. To me, it was a quick greenish-black blur across my vision, and then it dissolved into my eyes, she said. And then they waited. From the patient, they read.
I often try to miss the eyes, Steve.
Yeah. When injecting with a turkey baster.
It's a different kind of turkey baster, Steve.
Yeah, well, I know that. I got it. Trust me. Lucena and Tibbetts had done their research, going so far as to post a paper called A Review on Night Enhancement Eye Drops Using Chlorin E6. But they are, after all, a bunch of guys working out of a garage. Oh, yeah. So they went out to a dark field and tested Lucena's new superpowers. It did work. It started with shapes, hung about 10 meters away. She's talking like the size of her hand. Before long, they were able to do longer distances, recognizing symbols and identifying moving subjects against different backgrounds. Oh. And in other tests, they had people go stand in the woods, he says, at 50 meters. We could figure out where they were, even if they were standing up against a tree. Each time, Lucena had a 100% success rate. The controlled group, without being dosed with CE6, only got them right a third of the time.
I'm in.
So,
Inject me, motherfucker. Let's go see in the dark, Steve.
I was in until they said there was research being done in somebody's garage.
I'm in. I'm still in. We'll be on the cutting edge, Steve.
From the dailymail.co.uk, former NASA engineer claims he saw a 9-foot alien on a 1991 space mission. A former NASA engineer claims he saw a 9-foot alien while monitoring a space mission in 1991. Clark McClelland was allegedly part of a team based at Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida, when he spotted the extraterrestrial humanoid. The entity, he says, stood on two legs and approached two U.S. astronauts that he would not name for 1 minute and 7 seconds in the Space Shuttle Bay. His story has been hailed by supporters as the most conclusive evidence that intelligent life exists in space. McClellan claims the U.S. government has stripped him of his pension and forced him to live on Social Security, despite insisting that he has served on more than 800 NASA missions. But in a series of YouTube videos, he implores the public to take him seriously. I love my planet. I love our human race. I'm trying to serve all of you. If only you will...
To the 9-foot aliens.
McClellan's Twitter profile features a picture billed as his younger self in a NASA uniform. In a picture on his website, he poses with NASA astronauts by a space shuttle. Another shows a beaming McClellan allegedly standing with Judy Resnick, America's second female astronaut, who died in the 1986 Challenger explosion. Whew. 9-foot aliens.
They're real, Steve.
And in my favorite story of the night, Breitbart, B-R-E-I-T, Bart.com, Congresswoman claims that climate change will turn women into prostitutes.
I'm in.
On Wednesday, California Democrat Barbara Lee proposed a resolution. See, I don't usually do politics, Chris, but I had to do this one. Proposed a resolution in the House of Representatives that claims women will eventually be forced into prostitution in order to obtain life-sustaining food and water for their families. Lee introduced House Concurrent Resolution 29.
Because getting any other type of job to help support your family isn't going to work.
That's right. Warning that women will be forced into transactional sex to get enough food and clean water, all because global warming will create conflict and instability in the world. Women will disproportionately face harmful impacts from climate change, Lee's resolution reads. It continues claiming food insecure women with limited socioeconomic resources may be vulnerable to situations such as sex work, transactional sex, and early marriage that put them at risk for HIV, STIs, unplanned pregnancy, and poor reproductive health, just because of global warming. Lee's document goes on to urge Congress to agree on the disparate impacts of climate change on women, and goes on to demand that Congress use gender-sensitive frameworks.
Ginger? They got fucking... You.
Redheads, yes.
They get fucking used redheads.
Redhead-sensitive frameworks. Gender-sensitive frameworks in developing policies to address climate change. Lee also charges that women who are often underrepresented in the development and formulation of policy regarding adaptation to climate change are doubtless in the best position to offer policy ideas. So they want to go out and ask prostitutes why they're prostitutes, and does it have anything to do with climate change? I think that's the whole gist of this story.
That study needs to be done, Steve.
I think they need volunteers. Are you in?
To be a prostitute?
No, to do the study. You know,
to
whether or not women are going to be prostitutes. Well, that's going a little far.
Oh.
I mean, STDs and HIV. I mean, she said it in the resolution. That's what's going to happen. Women are going to become prostitutes because of global warming. Anyhow, that's the news.
Thanks, Steve. This has been Fortean Slip, episode 70. If you like this shit, hit the like button. If you don't, little thumbs down button. You can leave a comment. Good, bad, ugly. If you do, you have to leave it in a Clint Eastwood style voice in text. That's how I would prefer it. Hey, people can do anything on the internet. It's amazing, Steve. So,
understood.
Subscribe, share this shit around. We appreciate that. It gives Steve a wicked boner, and he's having some problems in that area.
How did you know?
Well, you know, I'm like Kreskin.